I think this kind of sales is possibly the way of the future. I think digitally reaching out, closing sales, we're doing a lot more virtual stuff that we've ever done before. Um, and scaling up needs this kind of digital intervention. I don't think you can scale up in the traditional sales manners.
Welcome to our newest comics case study, this time with our stakeholder or person of interest, Ajit Gopalakrishnan. Did I say it correctly?
Right.
Perfect.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he's founder and CEO of Odin Education and Gendermark. So welcome, and why don't you say a couple of words about who you actually are and who you work with?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Levi. As you mentioned, I'm Ajit Gopalakrishnan. I head up Odin Education, which is a startup within a large company. My company, Gendermark, is a large-scale automation company, and I was brought into the company to basically start our education division, which is really about employing sort of the tech that we're using in the manufacturing space, in the fourth industrial revolution space, and seeing how that can be applied to the education space, which we believe is a huge market opportunity.
Well, I think that's very, very interesting. I personally have a background in tech education, and looking that you and your software also are based in Joburg, I think, right?
No, actually in Pretoria, in Port Elizabeth, is where our head office is. I'm based closer to Pretoria. Yeah.
Well, I think that just makes me much more exciting. So I'd say let's dive straight into it, right? So let's start from the beginning a little bit. How did you guys do lead generation and sales in this area before you actually engaged with comics?
Yeah, so actually, to be honest, we struggled. We have developed a product that is quite a niche product. It focuses, unlike typical edtech platforms, it focuses on creating structural infrastructure. So it's quite a new product to the market. And also we are focused on delivering our products to the underprivileged schools in South Africa. So we basically are approaching private companies who have a specific transformational mandate, and there's a structure in South Africa around that. It's called the BBBE code, and using that mandate and using that structure to then for them to basically help schools in their communities. So we provide the technological solution for underprivileged schools funded by companies in those specific areas.
And what were you guys busy with before in sales?
Well, so we were a little bit all over the show, to be honest. We were reaching out to networks that we had. We were, looking up potential customers in the phone book or Google version of phone book. And it was very, I would say, unstructured and all over the show. Just kind of word of mouth, a little bit of social media campaigning. But we were lacking sort of volume and structure and a process. And so as a little startup, especially dealing with a product that we felt was very new, we knew we needed help in this area, and we knew we needed a lot more, a much better process to be put in place. And that's where we started looking, honestly searching on the internet for companies that could help us with lead generation. And that's how we came across comics.
You encountered some frustrations with certain activities before?
Yeah, we often pitched to the wrong people. Through firstly getting the meetings in the first place was incredibly difficult. We pitched to the wrong people. We weren't very clear around our target market. We weren't very clear around what we were solving for our customers. So I think just overall, we had a great product, but we didn't know how to sell it, to be honest. And from start to finish, I think just this shotgun approach of trying to hit the wall everywhere, and also pitch try to almost always try and sort of solve whatever the problems the customer had versus focusing on our product and knowing what we do really well and selling that to customers who want our product. We were kind of back to front. And I think we knew we needed help. There was no doubt about it, and it was really why we started saying, right, how do we get our sales process much better?
And what was the specific when you looked at comics, right? You found us somehow. What motivated you to get into that pipeline assessment?
Okay, so the first thing is, obviously comics was doing a whole lot more than lead generation, which, although we started out looking for just pure lead generation, we didn't know what we didn't know about sales, to be honest. Especially, as I say, my big company, Gendermark, sells massive production lines to customers that buy project, very customized solutions. So it's a very different model. And so because this was a new product into a very new market, we knew that we didn't know how to sell it properly. And we started by looking for lead generation. And I think the first attractive thing about comics, or the comics offering, was that it was way more than just lead generation. It was about a full process flow. It was talking about how to build the funnel, the funnel. It was talking about how to qualify. So it really looked from a targeted towards the output rather than just filling a piece. I think that was the first thing. So it was a holistic solution. I think the second thing that really kind of made us sort of interested in comics was you very much were trying to solve our problem, not sell us a product. I really felt that a lot, that it was very much around trying to build a partnership. And we really appreciate that in our business, because we rather partner with people who kind of see a longer term vision than trying to get a sale. And yeah, that came across. So we had a few, we were quite impressed. We said that, we felt that we were taken through a sales process, but we loved it. And so we still wanted to go, and my director's words were, if we can learn how to sell like comic sells, then we could. So we might as well join them.
Well, I'll make sure to give those compliments to Skulk. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it worked.
So let's look into the onboarding and starting with us, right? Could you describe a little bit the collaboration? How did the onboarding go? How did it go to perform the necessary steps?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is the training detail and all those 18 steps first, and then the next step. And I think it wasn't here's a closed box solution. Like, we had to do the work, but it was very clear on what we had to do, and it was also clear on what the next step was and why. So as a training program, just as this, forget about lead generation, but as a training program on how to structure everything, how to put things in place, I found incredible value in that. To be honest, I think we were a bit slow to start from our side, again, just from where we were, and we probably took longer than we should have to set it up. But it was, once we had in fact, we hired a person to dedicate to follow through with this. And once we did, it was very easy to follow, and it was very structured. And it was also something that you always knew why you were doing the next step, and you understood the why before the what. So once we got into it, it made a lot of sense, yeah.
Do you remember how many resources you needed to go through this?
So we started with one dedicated, and then I was part-time kind of involved in this. But honestly, I think you need somebody fully focused on the process to do it properly. And it's only once we got that up and running did it actually go. And then everyone else in the team would just support that individual, and once we got that happening, it worked well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Where would you say, in which area did you receive the most value?
I think very much on the end-to-end process. The not just the tech, but the whole how to do everything, like how to qualify a lead. What are the kind of things? What is a landmine? What is those elements? I think generally people know them kind of broadly, and if you've been in sales, you kind of understand them. But this is, I would say, a very German way of going through it. If that's not offensive, but it's very clear and very structured. And I found that very valuable because I could sort of really think about what we're trying to do, what are we selling, and it helped me stop wasting time on a whole bunch of things. Selling the wrong thing, talking to the wrong people, spending too much time up front and too little time later. So the overall process, I would say, is the biggest advantage of Connex.
Why would you say is that specific area so important to you?
Because I kind of a little bit about where we came from all over the show, but also I think we started to feel that when you focus on the process, then the whole thing will work. And we honestly, we haven't got to super sales yet that we want and expect, and Levi, you know this, but we definitely feel like it's working. The process is working. When you have customers who start quite like kind of maybe halfway in or even halfway out, and you can convert them by following a process, it's very rewarding. And like the steps, and you can almost see the emotion change of a customer from being quite defensive or closed to very open to ready to listen. And then if you do a good job in the demo, then a sale. So I am a big proponent of that process now, that it works. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the results. How would you describe the results that you achieved with Connex? What changed?
So I think the results have started to come. I think the one thing that we haven't yet achieved is shortening the cycle from when we start the journey to when we close, and I think that's an area that we need to focus on. I think maybe I'm still very confident that we will get there, and if we just get this, we refine the efficiency of the pipe and the process, that we will start closing a lot more. And honestly, I think it's not a silver bullet. It's not this magical wand that you start getting sales. But so my first year has been a lot slower than I originally expected, or was hoping, let's say. But I've seen good growth just from everything that we're doing. And the first 5 months already, from a really focused view of from January, we're already seeing quite a steep climb in terms of both quality and quantity of engagements. Yeah. And we did have a period where we went back, where we initially were spending a lot of time marketing to the wrong people and just disqualifying clients, and then we realized that our ICP wasn't correct and needed to be refined. And then once you change that, it takes a while for that to come through the pipeline. So because you've got quite an integrated process, it takes time for changes to reflect on the end. So honestly, we're not where we need to be in terms of return on investment, but everything in terms of the input and the process seems to be working, that I feel confident that we'll get to the right level of input, as long as we can get to the kind of run rates that we want. Yeah.
Exactly, I agree. So in terms of numbers and personnel, what kind of improvements did you see going through?
Not in terms of personnel. So I think we are at a point where we are doing more with less people, definitely. And we've started to see returns. So we just did a view at the moment, and we're starting to see, I'd say 30% of our sales now coming through just comics, but growing better than everyone else is growing. So the hope is ultimately this will be more 60 to 70% of our sales, and the word of mouth network kind of sales will be only 40%.
Great. Thanks, man, so much. So towards the end, we always ask our clients, how likely would you recommend to someone to work with us? And what should be the value that they should focus on getting out of?
Yeah, so how likely am I to recommend? I think I would definitely recommend quite strongly, depending on what the ambition of each of this friend of mine is, let's say a colleague or company that I'm aware of. I think for companies that want to digitally market, which want to set up a proper sort of systematic way of increasing their sales through this kind of process, I definitely think Comex I would strongly recommend Comex. And there's two main drivers. As I mentioned up to now, is this idea of partnership, that you're in it for the long haul. And I would say that it does definitely come across like that. And secondly, that you have a very clear process on how to do this. So the how is really clear. It's just a matter of if the potential client needs this kind of work, I think you're a great fit.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Ajit. Is there anything else that you haven't been able to mention yet, where you feel like that's definitely something that the world needs to hear?
Yeah, I think this kind of sales is possibly the way of the future. I think digitally reaching out, closing sales, we're doing a lot more virtual stuff that we've ever done before. And scaling up needs this kind of digital intervention. I don't think you can scale up in the traditional sales manners anymore. And Comex is a great partner to do that with.
Sag mal, Andreas, war's das jetzt?
Ja, das war's. Beziehungsweise noch eine Sache, das Outro fehlt.
Ah ja, okay. Wenn dir dieses Video gefallen hat, dann abonniere unseren Kanal und drück die Glocke, sodass du kein Video mehr in der Zukunft verpasst. Wenn du irgendwelche Fragen hast, dann sende uns die direkt in einen Kommentar unter diesem Video. Hast du das, Marc?
Ja.
Okay.
Cool.